We're live. We're live, baby. Right. So, welcome to the coronavirus quarantine volume 4. This is the 4th installment of our series, and I'm going to keep doing these. I'm going to try to keep it to 2 a week because I know that basically we've all got a lot more time on our hands, or most of us do. And I think this is the best way that I can actually get information across to you guys to answer your questions, because at the moment, at least for this week, I think it's still a little bit dodgy to go out and just be approaching in the streets. It's being done. I know people who are doing it. For me, I'm still a little uneasy about it because I'm not entirely sure about their situation, right? So in the streets, I'm a little bit wary still. However, in the parks and the green spaces, it's looking good. I'm going to go and open the window to get some cool air on this thing. The sound of the meat wagon outside patrolling. But yeah, I think I've been in London a couple of times over the past 2 weeks, and it's looking different to the way that it's looked before. People are going out. If anybody was out in London this weekend, you probably couldn't help but see how busy the green spaces were all along the River Thames. There was people out and about having picnics, chilling out, declothing themselves, not to the point of nudity, of course, but, you know, having fun and enjoying themselves. And it's the same here in Bath. I'm going out most days and there's loads of people sunbathing, having fun, relaxing. Life is looking back to normal. So I just first thing I want to address, something I left in a community post a little bit earlier, is that people are worried, as they always are, that things are never going to go back to normal, right? I've had so many people ask me, do you think the future of the cold approach in London, right? Meeting someone that you've never met before in the daytime and going up to them and starting a conversation, is that ever going to go back to normal? And the answer that I will give is simply put, yes. But there's a caveat to that, which is that it's you that's asking the question, but it's you that's making the difference, right? You are, it's like me asking myself, am I going to go and make some food later, right? I'm in charge of that. You are the people. We are the people that are interested in this way of life, right? That it's okay to go up and talk to people. And so if we're the people interested in it, then it's down to us to be the people to actually be out and about doing it and getting it out there. So if you're asking the question, is it going to go back to normal? The power's in your hands much, much more than you think, right? I know it's a subculture. I know it's a sort of an underground idea to be learning how to improve your communication skills, particularly with women. It's underground, right? It's not something that has daily airtime in the news and in the media, but it's us, man. It's literally, we are the people that are in charge of it. It's not just me deciding it. It's not Tusk deciding it. It's not anybody that's just a coach, right? It's the people that are going out there and actually doing it and putting the yards in, right? So you are deciding the future of this industry, if we want to call it that. And I think that this is a really good opportunity right now to think of it as a sort of revolution, right? To think of it like there are problems going on in this industry. There are people that are doing it for the wrong reasons. And I don't mean seeking sexual gratification as a wrong reason, right? I don't mean just trying to sleep with a lot of people. I'm not even talking about that. But people that, like myself, when I got into this, are actually coming from a place of negativity, a place of wanting to have dominion and power over other people, in this case, women, because of the ways that we may have been treated in the past. And I think this is a time for us to sort of think, right, well, coming back into this, now that we're going to reintroduce cold approach into the world, right, into London specifically, into the UK, let's make sure we're doing it the right way, right? Let's make sure that we are essentially following the main principles of cold approach, which is leave enough space in front of the person. Like, you cannot be She cannot be held responsible for her reaction if you leap out in front of her and do not make it clear that you're no threat. If you are getting in front of someone and stopping their flow and interrupting them and interrupting their momentum, it is entirely your responsibility to present yourself in a way that is non-threatening. And if she freaks out or says something bad, I'm not saying it's okay or it's, excusable, but it's like the most power you can have is to take responsibility and say, right, well, what could I have done better? What could I have done in order not to give her the impression that I'm a threat to her? So let's look at this time, particularly this next 2 weeks to a month, as the sort of introduction to cold approach back into the UK. How would we like this industry to be considered by those who know about it? And I think that we can do a good job of getting this right, doing it the right way, introducing it slowly back in, going to parks, talking to people that are sunbathing by themselves or with one girlfriend. Again, I was on a different live stream earlier talking about it, but you can actually make an educated guess about whether she is approachable, right? If it's a woman and she's with a man and there's 3 children around, you are likely going to think, right, that's a husband and a wife and a family, right? So you wouldn't approach it. You know that. But then let's say you see 2 guys and 1 girl, right? Could be housemates, right? They might all be living together. So that might be a little bit more approachable, right? Let's say you see, the point is that the more that you are able to educate yourself on the eligibility of that approach and think, right, there's a girl on her own sunbathing. Good chance she lives alone. Good chance she's not taking the disease back to anyone. Let me go and come in and gently approach this girl. And it's all comes back to that observation, which is at the very, very foundation of everything here, is you've got to be observing your environment and calibrating to each situation. And that's just as much when you're in the conversation as actually getting into the conversation. It's not about what line you say, what is your opening line. It's nonsense. It's about what have you observed, and then what can you say that's based on your educated observations of her moving through her environment in her context. So I want to start this just by thinking that this is an exciting time for anybody that's feeling cabin fever, no end in sight to this coronavirus and this lockdown. There's definitely an end in sight, man. There's people out and about. There's people living like they're wanting to live again. Whether or not you agree with the politics or that, it's not my place to talk about what I believe is right or wrong, really. The fact is that people are out and about. And if you are a guy that wants to go and meet women, put yourself out there, man. Go for it. Get involved. Get stuck in the parks. So, yeah, I'm coaching again now. I've got a boot camp in London on the 20th to the 21st, which is full up. But I've got Sweden the following week. And any coaching, basically from this coming week, if anybody wants to get in touch and have a chat about how to get yourself back out there, obviously happy to have a call with anybody that wants one. But yeah, it's time to get back out there if you want to, guys. So whoever's watching now, there's 10 or more of you, feel free to just make yourself known in the live chat so that I can see who's around. And if you have any questions on any of this, then please feel free to ask them, obviously. But until I get a sort of steady stream of questions, I just want to go into maybe some of the details about how you might want to approach in this situation, right? So let's say you're in the park and you see one girl sunbathing by herself. How would you want to enter that situation? There's a few people around. People still understand that these measures are in place and that people aren't really supposed to be socializing and meeting other people, but it's looking a little bit more relaxed than it has done in the past. So how might you approach that situation? Well, let's say she's lying down here. You might probably come from a little angle, a little bit in front of her, leave about 2 or 3 meters, and just start with, excuse me. Then the next thing you want to do is have observed something about her. So what's she reading, or what's she wearing, or where does she look like she's from? Or how is she feeling during this coronavirus, right? Like what is she expressing in the way that she's living right now that gives you some food for thought, that gives you something to latch onto and talk about? Maybe if it's a book she's reading, you could just say, excuse me, don't worry, I'm keeping my distance, but I just saw that book. What book are you reading right now? Right? You can just enter the conversation with a casual question like that. First thing first, just to address the situation, be like, even make a joke about it, right? Like, I'm not going to encroach on your 1.5 meters. I don't want to catch anything, right? Or something like that, just to kind of break the ice and just show that you're non-threatening and that you're going to be an easy person to communicate with. And then have a little conversation about that, maybe what book she's reading. And then the easiest meat for a conversation is to just get into living situations, right? So you can find out kind of other people's logistics really early, right? Like, so what brings you out here reading alone? Are you living alone, or have you got family around, right? Get into that conversation. And then that's obviously going to give you opportunities later on. If she is living alone, you've got some pretty useful and valuable information about maybe that her potential to meet up with you, right? Your potential to have a date that might end in one of your houses is much more likely if she's a girl living alone. It also probably means that she's probably not been seeing anyone, right? She's been starved of some of life's great pleasures in the same way that you may have been, and so there's more likely to be a genital marriage. I don't know a good way to say that, really. It's a bit vulgar, isn't it? You're more likely to have sex if she's living alone, right? And she hasn't been having sex. So that would be fun, right? That would be a fun opportunity to take. And I think in many ways, and some of my good friends who are actually out and about approaching in London now are saying that really there's never been a better time to be doing it, because there is zero competition. There are hardly, girls really aren't expecting it at the moment. And you may have noticed, but women are sort of looking for indicators of interest more than they usually would. I see a lot of girls when they're sort of sunbathing, just stand up, shake their hair off, have a look around, make eye contact, because just like us, they're sort of starved of that sense of connection with men, right? Even if it's not explicitly about sex or about relationship, there's an element of just wanting to be in contact, wanting to be connected to people of the other sex, right? Wanting to feel the desire and feel the flow of energy between two people that are attracted to one another. That's something that's very addictive, and women are going to feel that more than we are, because it's them that are normally going to be getting checked out, right? In the street, they're receiving more attention than men are. And so that desire to be desired is going to be greater in women than it is in men at the moment. And that gives any brave and well-calibrated soul who sees a good opportunity a big advantage in this field. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the live chat and I haven't had any comments yet. So I'm just going to see if I can bring something up. Okay, cool. I have got people. I've got you, right. So we've got Dean Flirt Coach, Colby 2987, and Potato Express, the top three. Right, let me just move this thing about. The chat's not appearing in my side, that's why I'm not paying attention. I'm your biggest fan, thank you. Have you committed a major sin? Probably, yeah, absolutely. My Chechen wife has ADHD. I'm sorry to hear that. My Chechen warlord father has told me that girlfriends are bad and very bad. Fair enough. Do you support Boris? Boris is just a figurehead to a government. I don't see him as anything more than the mouthpiece to the system that's in place. So I don't really have an opinion. I don't think he's charismatic. I don't think he's a very good speaker. I don't think he's doing a very good job of uniting anyone. But I just don't think it's important, right? I don't think he's an important figure, really. I have one Russian girlfriend and 2 Chinese wives. Cool, man. My bodyguard's name is Vladimir Putin. He's very cool. Cool, man. Selam Basabs. Don't understand. I'm living in Dustbin. Do you think C will like me? God, these are a really poor set of comments, lads. You've got to do better. You've got to do better than that. Hey, Sam. So basically, observe what she's doing and comment on it. Then after a few to and throws, tell her I think her style looks good. I'm as good as you in conversation. It's the approach anxiety that kills me. Cool, man. Well, then you don't need me, bro. If you are there already, then you don't need me. The approach anxiety is tough, though, Amy. The approach anxiety is tough. That's it. You can't. There's no shortcut to difficulty, right? If your question is, "This is difficult. I know it's difficult. How do I get rid of the difficulty?" There is no answer to that. Like any shortcut that you were able to take to get good, even if in the most unlikely case that it did actually work, you then wouldn't appreciate it, man, because you haven't worked for it. To chase the bang and the snuggles was Tuscanized founding three principles that seem to follow in most parts of life, which is that you're only truly going to appreciate something. Let's look at a relationship situation. If you meet a girl out in the daytime, you meet her in the street, and you cold approach her and you get over that anxiety, right? And then you have a little conversation with her. You feel her starting to fall for you. You feel her becoming attracted to you. You're feeling good at the moment. You're attracted to her. Things go well. You end up back to one of your places, have an amazing time, have a great night. And then you wake up in the morning and you look next to you and you feel good about it, right? You're not eager to get out of the house or kick anyone out of your bed. You're kind of like, this is really nice, right? I want to make breakfast. That is that's the triangularity of success in terms of owning this process fully and having the experiences that really, aside from long-term relationships and marriages, which is awesome as well. That's the thing, man. That's the golden key. It's an amazing experience to be able to meet someone completely of your own accord and have a connection with them, have an amazing time, and then want to stay around them for at least some period of time. And that doesn't include or preclude relationships, but it doesn't necessarily need to be to look for a girlfriend, right? Between two consenting adults. So I just want to go back to that question. After a few to and fro's and tell her style looks good. No, man, actually, I wouldn't do that, Amit. I tend not to give compliments in interactions. I think it adds a layer of facade to the conversation, even if you actually do think she has good style. I just think that when you start complimenting someone in a conversation before you know them, it adds this sort of frame where she has to turn into a giggly teenager, right? You have to be like, oh, you look really nice. Yeah, oh, thank you. It takes away any flow of reality in a conversation. Like any attempt to just actually connect is sort of blindsided by this eagerness to please her, right? She almost inevitably just gets this sense like, yeah, he's saying the things that I want to hear. Like, it feels like you're going through the motions. So when you start complimenting a girl, she doesn't feel like she can fuck it up. And if she doesn't feel like there's any risk of you falling out of attraction with her, then she's not going to value you, because there's nothing to play for, right? You could have been any other girl, right? It's just her looks. If her looks alone are enough to keep you and she can do no wrong, she's bored because there's no sense of achievement on her end because you're an easy catch. A fisherman doesn't run home to his family when he catches a goldfish, right? So you've got to kind of put yourself on a place where you find her attractive. Maybe you can communicate that with your face, with your eyes, with the way that you're talking. Maybe you can package that compliment up in a way where she understands it, but it doesn't have the same like just cheesy throwaway compliment vibe to it, right? So if you were to say, I think that the way you've matched this red top and these black tracksuit bottoms is mildly impressive, right? If you were to say something like that, she would get that you're complimenting her, but it would be packaged in a more conscious way, right? It would be packaged in a more socially intelligent way. Like you're kind of joking that you don't want to give her a straightforward compliment, so you found a way around it. And then there's a mutual understanding of the social situation. Do you see there's nuances in conversation? There's ways around giving a compliment that are intelligent and make the girl interested because she sees you as an intelligent human being. She sees you as someone with character, with personality, with a little bit of cheeky intelligence beneath the surface. And that's what you should be working towards. And compliments are fine, but they're fine just like the average Joe is fine. They're not effective. I'm stuck with cold approach. Any tips? Ethan, my brother, if you ask a very, very broad, general, unthorough question, you tend to get an answer that's the same. I'm stuck with cold approach. Any tips? I'm not inspired to just give random tips on cold approach. But if you think of something specific to cold approach that you're actually struggling with, like a situation or something specific, then I'll go into it. But there's broad tips on cold approach is not much up to it. Sam, you want to come to Istanbul? Yeah, man, I would love to come to Istanbul. I've been to Turkey. I've been to Bodrum and a couple of other cities in Turkey, but I've never been to Istanbul, so I would like to. Thank you, Colby. My wise wisdom. Great. Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad that my wisdom is wise. Right, so I got a question from a friend of mine. And this one I'm not going to go too far into, but just to entertain it, because I understand there are a lot of sort of Southeastern guys watching. So my friend says, if you're not viewed as physically attractive, exceptionally stylistic, an extrovert, or a natural with women, or a comedian or super popular, should you avoid nightclubs as it's based predominantly on looks? Nightclubs, of course, it's going to be easier in a nightclub to meet women if you're physically attractive. And I don't just mean genetically. It's not sort of head in hands if you're not some Greek god Adonis looking person. But the other things go a long way. A unique sense of style, being well presented, right? Standing up straight. And the physical side, the genetics do help. There's just no way around that. It's easier to get women if you're a good-looking guy up to a certain level of success. It's much easier if you're a broke, good-looking guy than if you're a broke, bad-looking guy. That is just an unequivocal fact. It doesn't make it impossible. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to get better and you shouldn't pursue it. Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. But it just makes it easier, right? Maths is easier for people who are good at maths, right? We're born with certain advantages and certain disadvantages in different areas. Best thing we can do is own our disadvantages, own the things about our physical appearance that we're not sure about, and go even harder, go into the mixer, and people, you'll find people that's going to be fine. So nightclubs, the question again is about, like, should I go to nightclubs to pick up women if I'm not attractive, super charismatic? Again, it's just coming from this place of, like, I'm, the small fish in the pond that no one wants. And, if I go to it's pointless for me to go to a nightclub. But you've got to think about it. Like, do you want to go to the nightclub? It shouldn't, I know this is kind of paradoxical because what you really do want is to meet women, right? But if you're going to a nightclub purely to meet women, the women in the nightclub know what you're up to and generally are less interested in you. If you've ever gone to a nightclub with a group of guys who are having fun and partying, making a bit of a scene, having fun with their friends, girls will come and float around the edge. And it's really weird, but you'll start to notice it even if you're not too clued in to looking for indicators of interest. Girls will start to hover around you, flick their hair, stand back to back with you. One will stand like a meter behind with her back to you and start flicking her hair. It becomes really obvious. And what they're interested in is not guys that are out hunting and trying to increase their lay rates. They just want to have fun, right? That's what they're thinking about in the moment. And so when they see guys having fun with each other who don't need to be approaching women, don't need validation from anyone else, they start to hover around. And then you've got the energy from your friends. You're having fun. You're out and about. Even then, sometimes it can be difficult to approach just because you're so locked into a certain energy that even if you see a girl you like, it can be a little bit like you need to warm up, right? So the way to think about it is that it's one, in some ways, it's one for the boys. So you talk to the guys and say, she's really cute. I'm going to go and talk to her, or I'm going to go fuck it up with this girl, right? You assume that you're just going to go and say hi and it's going to be weird. You kind of embrace the absurdity of the situation, embrace the fact that she's probably not going to be interested, and just go up completely relaxed, not caring about the outcome. That's normally the best way in a club. And then go back to your friends, right? Or stay with her. if you're trying to do too well in a club, if you're trying to put too much pressure on the outcome, you'll just be trying to ride on her energy. She'll start leading the conversation. She'll start leading the interaction and deciding what happens. And at some point, she'll just say, okay, I've got to get back to my friends, and it's dead in the water at that point. So you want to avoid that happening. So if you go up, it should just be to enhance the situation, to create a sense of fun in the moment, maybe even just to get blown out, right? Because she knows you've got your friends. You're not vulnerable to being blown out. You're out with a few cool guys who you're having fun with. She blows you out, you just get more time with them. That's the perspective that you've got to come to it from. And if you're sat there thinking, well, I don't have guys that I can go out with and have fun like that, then you're maybe barking up the wrong tree. If you want to go to nightclubs, you want to meet women and have fun in nightclubs, but you don't have guy friends, then, dude, I think your priorities are in the wrong place. So I would work on finding a group of people. If you want to go out and meet women, find a cool group of people who also want to go out and have fun. Maybe they also want to meet women, maybe not, doesn't really matter. Even if it's a guy with his girlfriend, you can make it work. Just any place that you feel comfortable and you're having fun, people you're having fun with, it's going to make it much easier. Do you see yourself settling down in a country full-time? If so, which one? The Royal Banana. The Royal Banana, it's a difficult question, man. I mean, I try not to think too far ahead. I've got family over in Rio now, and I love England and I love London, and I've got family over here in London. So I think probably, man, for the next couple of years, I'm going to be in London from sort of March, April to September, and then over in Rio for September to March, because you've got just an amazing period of time between December the 25th and late February, early March in Rio. It's amazing. It's like a giant holiday. It's like a festival every day. Everyone's just don't seem to be working. Sunny, heat, people wearing hardly any clothes, loads of beautiful people, loads of bars open. It's really good. So I'm happy in Rio. And obviously I've got my family there. I've got my little boy there. So I'm really happy in Rio. I'm also happy in London. So I think I'm just going to be traveling between the two and then doing coaching abroad. I love Poland. I love Berlin and Germany. So doing some coaching abroad as well. I don't know in the far future, though. It's a good question. Cool. You're a maths teacher. Cool, man. What ages of kids do you teach maths? I noticed that when I was in a group in Roof Gardens, girls were more interested. Yep, they are. They are more interested. What up, Teddy? What up, Teddy? How you doing, man? Yeah, but Roof Gardens is closed now, Amir. Roof Gardens got shut down because there was too much security. I used to go up there and it was really good. You had a mixed group of people. You had some much older people, a lot of beautiful girls, a lot of sort of stragglers, people that didn't find another club and had heard about a roof garden and then turned up there. So it was always this really wacky demographic of people up there, just a real mixture of characters, which made it a lot of fun. But then, because I was promoting for Roof Garden, so I was doing the tables and inviting guests and connecting people there for a while. And it was a lot of fun. But what I noticed was they slowly started becoming stricter and stricter on the security and having more and more security guards outside and inside, to the point where people just felt like they were getting surveyed. And then where before, the city guys would maybe be sneaking off into the toilets and doing nothing legal, let's say. As soon as that became an absolute no-go, I think people used to smoke a bit of weed out actually in the garden, and it was a nice little fun sort of druggy atmosphere in there. Actually, it was quite fun. Not that I partook, but it was a good atmosphere. And then the security guards came, and the whole place just started getting more and more kind of static and caged in, and it just failed. They just ran out of money. So yeah, shame to see it go, but they brought it on themselves. Teddy, ask me a question, man. We were just talking earlier. What have you got? I wish more women had that sexual energy and vibe that Brazilian women have. Yeah, it's a very unique thing over there. It's a very unique energy there. It's extremely open culture, and there is no secret world of attraction. There's no secrets behind women wanting men and men wanting women, and people are very open about being, horny, essentially, sexually interested. It's not frowned upon. And even from, I mean, it's debatable what effect this has, but young children are exposed to sexuality much, much earlier in Brazil, just to the music, to the culture, to people kissing in public, carnival. People are really exposed to sex from a much younger age. So I don't know. I imagine that that's probably, I mean, there's two sides, isn't there? Some people would say, no, you want to shield children from sex and romance until they're of an age where they can fully understand it. And another school of thought is saying that, well, if you make it a secret and you make it a fetish, you make sex seem like a fetish, then people will fetishize it and treat it like it's a taboo and try and be naughty with it. But if you just normalize sex and sexuality and stop pretending to children that they come on stalks and just say a part of a man's body goes in a part of a woman's body, like a handshake, and then a baby comes out and it feels good as well, then it's like, oh, that's not weird. So I think Brazil might have it right, to be honest. Every time when I feel the passion to approach a girl on the street, I can be so stressed. I don't know what I should do to deal with this problem. It's hard, man. I'm not going to lie. You know, even when I've taken a few months off. There's nothing to be done, right? And I know the feeling, man. I know that the anxiety is real when you see someone on the street and you want to talk to them. What I would recommend for that is to do the only thing you can to make it easier for yourself and approach in an environment that's not as difficult. And as I said, the parks are the easiest places right now. There's people are spread out. They're not doing anything. They're sitting down. A girl on her own in the park is probably the best option to approach. Or someone walking very slowly, maybe stopping in a park or by the side of a river and looking at something. These people are much easier to approach than a girl that's walking down the streets, and actually much more appropriate to approach as well. So just focus your energy on the easier logistical situations. Teddy, nighttime I find is essential to have other guys to roll with. Daytime is fine to chill solo. Yeah, true. Nighttime is great to have guys with. If you're going out to clubs, it's much more fun when you've got 3 guys than 2. Yeah, it's actually true. But again, it's also about the vibe. If the guys, ideally, you want the guys to both be, you know, approaching as well or interested in meeting women, but also interested in the night for its own sake and just having fun. A problem that I had when I was sort of learning this, you know, a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, was that I would go out with guys that were only interested in meeting women, and you just never had that respite. You never had that moment where you're just happy in a club talking with your friends because they're always sort of looking out and seeing what they can get from the situation. And so you want to find a balance when you're with people that's sort of everyone's enjoying the situation for what it is, but they're also capable and eager to meet new people when opportunities present themselves. And yeah, daytime is fine, perfect solo, because most of the time you're going to be by yourself in the day when you see people. So that's something that you should definitely become comfortable with, especially if you're ever going to do traveling. You can't rely on having friends around to just meet a girl that crosses the street in the day. But it is also great if you're trying to pick up momentum to go out with someone else, and you can sort of help each other out and sort of coach each other, I guess, a little bit. That can be fun. Amir, deep breaths, Ethan. It really helps. And remind yourself it's just a human being and regret not approaching is worse than the approach. Yeah. Can you describe what a typical Saturday night out is like in Rio, say in a bar or a club, whatever is possible? So in Rio, they don't have a very big nightlife scene. So they don't really have good clubs, right? London has great clubs. Barcelona, Las Vegas have amazing clubs. Rio doesn't really, and the club scene's not very big outside of just students, university students, and older people, really. The young people normally just go to these little bars by the street. You'll have a whole street, and it's just dedicated to having little kind of bars. I mean, you don't see the type of bars. They call them botecos, or barzinhos in Portuguese. It's like little bar or kind of like portable bar, I guess, but they're the kind where it could just be like a garage, it could be a shoe shop, it could be a money laundering scheme, it could be a travel agent. It's just a random shop that's open up. There's a little bar area, a few taps, plastic chairs. And if you go to Leblon, there's more restaurant bars, which is a nice area. and they'll just have the whole street will just be full of people buying drinks from different places, maybe buying bottles of beers from a shop or getting a pint or a cocktail from one of the bars and just standing outside and mingling. So the nightlife scene is amazing because it's so pro-social, it's so pro-open-air social. And every time I go back to Rio, a new favorite spot turns up. So one time there was this bar called Canastra Bar in Ipanema, which was it was a very classy bar. But then loads of people from the communities, from the favelas, would come down and bring big music speakers, big like bass speakers and stuff. And then other people would be playing instruments. And then people would wheel along these carts full of cachaça, vodka, lemon juice. And it would just be this huge sort of festival style gathering of a few thousand people filling up this street. And that was just an institution. And then I came back the next year and it was a different place, right? They just moved to another bar. So they're much more freestyle. They're much less ordered and regulated and organized than we are here. People just kind of make things up as they go along. House falls down, build it again, right? Over here we'd be like, what am I going to do? Who do I need to hire to do this? They just figure stuff out. So it's a great atmosphere. It makes you realize how much you overthink things and how much you need babysitting over here, right? When the water stopped working in my apartment for 2 days, and you don't get annoyed about it. You can't get annoyed about it. It's just that's what it is over there. Go and buy some water, right? Go and have a shower, have a bath in the sea. There's other ways. I have a problem with approaching a group of women unable to approach one. Some few videos on YouTube have helped me. Man, I've got a few videos on YouTube of me approaching 2 women. They're not all very good. I think I've said it before, but you know, I do think there's a lot of value in the infield videos that are on my channel. But they're not my best approaches by any stretch of the imagination, because something changes, at least for me. I think perhaps if you're acting, you know, if you are doing this more as a game, some people actually do switch on a persona very much when they go in consciously. I think it wouldn't really matter so much for them, but for me, I do try and be as entirely authentic as I can be, just completely upfront and honest. And so when I know that there's a camera filming me, something about the vibe changes because there's another prerogative, right? There's something else involved. And so actually the infield videos, for all their worth, and I do believe they're worthy and they're fun and they're helpful, they're not the best ones. They're not the best interactions I have. I would need to be filmed accidentally. So if anyone sees me out in the street, whip your phone out and you might get good infield. But I've got some with 2 girls that will just show you more of a sort of friendly, but socially calibrated way of approaching 2 women. That's what I would say would be the main benefit of those infields. It's about the social calibration more than the sort of escalation and really getting into the sexy side of the interactions. It's much harder to do that on camera, in my experience, because you know in your mind and in your heart that it's not entirely real, right? It's entertainment. Sam, how are Owen, Bav, and Dylan doing? Man, I miss the word Kieran on the end of that. Rest in peace, Kieran, man. But the other 3 are doing good. Owen is in Bury St Edmunds, which is my hometown as well. Me and Owen happen to be from the same hometown. He's good, man. Owen seems to be doing good. I think he's still working at the moment. He's a key worker. Bav, I haven't heard from in a while, but I want to get back in touch with Bav. I think I'm going to get him on a Skype video soon to talk about his progress, because Bav really did well. Like, he really put the work in. And Dylan and I stopped working for a while because I think you know, the issue for Dylan wasn't what he was doing. He was actually quite socially calibrated. He was quite good conversationalist. The issue was that he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know why he was doing this, and so there was never any intent, because you know, I would be sort of feeling like, well, what did you want to do with her, right? And he was like, I don't really know. And so yeah, like, it's still very beneficial for Dylan to be going out and talking to people, meeting people, learning to approach. But sometimes we have to fix something at the level of intention, right? It's like if you go out and you really don't want to be talking to people, you want to be going on a walk, you want to be with your family or something, you're not sexually frustrated at all, you know, you don't want to, you're not looking for a partner. If you're then forced to go out and cold approach, like, where's it coming from? Because you don't want to do it. So I think for Dylan, he's a great guy, and he just needs to figure out what he wants to get out of it, and then he can come back at it with some real intent, because it was just the intent that was missing there. But I still think it's, I mean, it does so much value outside of just getting women. This is literally toughness training for the modern man. Like, what else is there that we can do? Exercising, the discipline of exercise, fighting, martial arts, the discipline of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Jiu-Jitsu, and approaching women if you're a straight man, right? Like, these are our toughness training. This is what we've got, right? We don't have crusades. We don't have Viking longboats to go and raid other countries and conquer and test our discipline. We're not in the trenches anymore, thank God. So we've got to create our own obstacles. We've got to create our own obstacle courses. We've got to create toughness in ourselves, because there isn't nothing that's doing it for us. Do you think mystery method is still a viable style of game? I think mystery method is a very eloquent condensation of a lot of the biology behind it. He's taken evolutionary theory and he's packaged it up into a very manageable and apparently simple method of attraction and seduction. However, I think there's a fundamental paradox with day game, with approaching, which is that you can learn theory that then helps you with approaching. However, when you're focused on theory, you are taking spontaneity, right? So two things are important: information with cold approach, what you know how to do, either consciously or subconsciously, and spontaneity, which is being in the moment, which is being present, which is connecting, which is observing, which is being funny, humor, comedy. Everything of interest in the interaction comes through spontaneity. Everything of structure comes from information, knowledge, a structure, a method. So you've got these two completely opposite, like day and night things on one side. On one, you've got the order, the structure, the regulation. On the other, you've got the chaos, the freestyle, the randomness. So in my opinion, is that you've got to start in chaos. You've got to enter it in chaos. You can't just have the structure when you go in. You need to fiddle with the tools. You can't go on a DJ deck and just read all the books and do it piece by piece. You want to play a track and fiddle with the decks and just figure it out. And so the problem with the mystery method is it makes people think that if they just read this book, they're going to be fine. And it's not true, because the people that mystery method followers, in my opinion, would generally tend to wish that they were like is the people that are being funny. They're like, how did you learn to do that spontaneousness? It's like, dude, I was just being spontaneous. I wasn't doing it. That's the whole point. It's not something you do. It's the absence of doing. When you're not following a structure, when you're not sucked into a method, you are spontaneous. When you remove the form of order, you release the chaos. And I think that chaos is the starting point when it comes to anything social. You've got to be free. And mystery method is a structure. I think the caveat to that, and where structure comes in, is that you can use it as a diagnostic. So if you're going out and you're approaching women in whatever way you can, and you repeatedly come across the same obstacle. So women will talk to me, but then they'll get bored in 2 minutes. Right, well then maybe you consult some information as a remedy, like a medicine that might be able to help you fix whatever issue you're facing. But I don't think it's a good foundation. I think complete cluelessness is the best foundation. And honestly, the longer you can maintain the idea that you suck, but you're enjoying it, the better. This beginner's mind is really, really, really important. For me, it's hard because obviously being a coach, you often get people gassing you up, to use for all the Londoners, gassing you up. And it makes it difficult to remain incredibly humble. But the best interactions that I have and the the best conversations that I have with women is when I'm not thinking that I'm good, right? I'm not thinking I'm good. And most of the time I don't. And when I'm thinking that I'm good, or if I'm in a group of people and I start thinking like, you know, I'm better with women than these people or anything like that, I'm going to start sucking. I'm going to start being weird because I feel like I'm grabbing onto this idea of myself that isn't actually real. Humility, confident humility. So knowing that you're, you know, looking at yourself like you're a beginner and you've got a lot to learn and everybody's opinion on it, everybody's point of view is going to be helpful, whilst being confident that if you keep that mindset, like you are just going to get better. That is the way to look at this. So that's how I would encourage you guys to think about it. Is just accept that you suck, whatever level you're at. There's way more to learn. There's loads of times you're going to fuck it up, and that is okay. Kieran passed down. He seemed like a really good dude. I'm sorry to hear that, Sam. So am I, man. I didn't see it coming at all. Yeah, I didn't recognize sadness in Kieran. But yeah, he's a brother. He was a great man. So rest in peace, Kieran. Yeah, man. Royal Banana. Obviously, you know where to find me about Rio. Yeah, I hear you, Amir. I hear you, but we should say his name, man. He's a good guy. We don't have to hide from his name. You may not know this, but where in London have you found most number of British Indian girls? That's a good question, man. Probably, that's a really good question. To be honest, you actually do find a lot around Oxford Street, from Topshop to Tottenham Court Road, down Oxford Street. That's quite high. Edgware, but that's a bit far out. But Edgware has a lot of Indian English girls as well. And if you go somewhere like Knightsbridge and around where Harrods is, you get a lot of there as well as a large Saudi population. But yeah, I've met British Indian girls on Oxford Street, most of all. Teddy, spontaneity, congruence, presence, and conviction with a dose of humility. Yeah, man. Yeah. It's the recipe. Show your receipts. This is all Deepak Chopra word salad unless you show receipts. Don, would you care to elaborate a little bit on that comment? It's a little bit Deepak Chopra in the way that it comes across, and there's no clarity to what you're asking. But please feel free to clarify. I've found when going on some dates, I can get seduced if the girl is very, very hot. I have been strung along without anything being reciprocated back. Has this happened to you, and tips to avoid? Get seduced, get strung along without anything being reciprocated back. Right, so she never shows attraction to you, but you're getting attracted to her. Yeah, of course that's happened where I've liked to go on a date and she hasn't liked me. I mean, it just is what it is, man. I think there isn't anything you can really do about that, right? For your own mind, you just say, like, que sera. Again, the kind of beginner's mindset mode where you're not thinking like, oh, God just didn't understand me. She didn't understand my value. I'm a high value man and she just didn't, it's her loss. I think a lot of that talk is bullshit. Like, it's a nice idea, right? That you can just say, yeah, it's her problem. I'm a high value man, but you're just talking nonsense to yourself because you don't truly believe it. So I think it's better to say, look, there are some days I'm going to be more attractive than other days because my head's going to be working in a different way. Some girls are going to be more attracted to me than others. There is no way of knowing what she's been through in her day or what she's going through. There's no way to understand that. And so the best thing you can do is just play your cards and hope for the best, honestly. And it's a great way to look at it. Just you go on a date, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't put any pressure on it, you just go out there to have a good time, to learn. You want to have great, it'd be nice if it ended in something fun like sex. Doesn't matter if it doesn't. She comes back to your house and then just doesn't want to sleep with you. Don't need to switch the lights off or switch the lights on and ruin the vibe. Just get her an Uber home. Make it nice, and then she'll want to see you again. In most cases, I'm I know this can sound a little bit like the bland, advice that just doesn't work, but I've tried it both ways, man. And sometimes when you get to that position where, it might be on, it might not be. The old advice that you get is like, right, well, turn the lights on and go on your phone so she feels really uncomfortable and would rather sleep with you than feel this discomfort. And it might work, right? It might work. She might want to do it, but do you really want to have had sex with a girl because she was so uncomfortable in the position before that she kind of slept with you out of discomfort rather than out of desire, right? Whereas the other hand, when you're just like, yeah, of course, I'll get you a taxi, you send them home, give them a kiss, offer them a glass of water, whatever, just not to be nice or romantic, just be a good person, like just act like a good person who she can be herself around, and she's going to want to see you again. So for me, I would say you want to have that future mindset of like, well, down the line, I'd rather have 2 dates, I'd rather not have sex on the first date, have the girl want to see me again and speak well of me and think well of me, than have a one-night stand that she then regrets or that she feels like she was pressured into. So it's about a marriage of what works and exactly where your moral compass guides you as well. Don Ragnar, I still haven't had a clarification, bro. Please send it my way. Send me your receipts. Phoenix, were you a natural? You seem like you at least had some decent social skills before. Yeah, man. So I was technically socially calibrated. Like I haven't purely learned social calibration. Like I've always been sort of very, very acutely aware of social dynamics. So if I'm in a room, I know the hierarchy of people in that room, right? I know which guy feels awkward. I know who feels confident. I can tell what, I found it traditionally quite easy to tell how a group dynamic works. However, I was always just a fly on the wall. I was a completely, I would never try and exert myself in that situation. I'd never want to be the center of attention in groups of people that I didn't know that well. And I had no skills with women. Like I genuinely, completely thought that this was immutable, right? That if you're not getting laid, it's because you're not a person that gets laid. If you don't have a girlfriend, it's because the girls that you like are too good for you, right? And that's just it. And I really believed that. And it took desperation and persuasion to show me that this was not just something you could work on, but probably the most important thing, one of the most important things you can do, if not the most, right? It's putting yourself into a state of psychological dread that's deeply rooted in your brain and overcoming it. And it's one of the most pure feelings of conquest and having overcome an obstacle that I think you can think about today. What else have we got? Vikings, I keep coming back to Vikings, but they would travel for months at sea, where people would die with hardly any food and no vitamin C, getting school. And they would do that to go and conquer and have that feeling that they've won something or they've died trying, right? And I don't think that's to be emulated. They were a violent bunch in many regards, and they colonized a lot of places essentially, or conquered them. But it shows us that there's a sense of conquest inside us, a desire that can be quenched. And when it does, you feel glory. You actually feel glory. And I think this is almost the purest access point to feeling like there was something that was unattainable. You did something difficult and you attained it. It's the hero's journey, lived out every day. And so I think that if you are inclined towards meeting people, if you're a guy that wants to meet women, and you have the opportunities to meet women and you're not doing it, then you're missing out on one of the purest feelings of conquest. And not in a negative way, not like she's an object and you're trying to conquer it, but that you've actually gone out and made something important happen, right? Remembering that this girl could be your best friend, your future wife, or your future girlfriend. My best girlfriend in the world is a girl who I met from cold approach and then dated. And so it's real that this can be a doorway to anyone. Most of my best contacts in London, like the people that not my best friends necessarily, but my best contacts, business contacts, they virtually all come from cold approach. So yeah, it's a pretty important thing. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Were you natural? So I had a natural understanding of social situations, but I was certainly not natural with women. I had no idea what I was doing, and I would actively not know. Like I would just be in the situation like I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. So again, I was one of those guys where if a girl just liked me, just happened to like me, right, and knowing that I was clueless and that I wasn't flirting or anything like that, then I could get a date. But it wasn't the girls that I wanted to be dating, really. Insights are singularly ideal and expressed with true eloquence. As was that comment, Teddy. As was that comment. So yeah, so we've got a few minutes left, guys. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. I just want to quickly come back to a question that my friend asked me. Coming back to that Darth Maul character who is keen for everyone to believe that they've got absolutely no hope unless they look a certain way, and he wants to spread that message. And I'm not having a go at him for it, because I understand the pain, the place of pain that comes from when you want people to believe that they're not capable of doing something. It's a place of pain inside of us when we're doing that. So I feel sympathy, and I hope he's all right, genuinely. But he said, so this is, let me find it. In relation to that response for him, it would be interesting to hear if you think women and female dating coaches do enough on the subject of how race impacts dating. An issue if you're of South Asian or Oriental descent as a male. I do not think they do anywhere near enough on this, as this issue is a criticism leveled at women, not men, and certainly not white men. Okay, look, it's obviously very, very loaded, but to be honest, man, in answer to that question, I don't really think I'm not sure that it's anybody's responsibility to talk about or address anything. Like, I don't think female dating coaches have an obligation to talk about race. If they're getting clients and they're helping people and they're making money, then they're doing their jobs, right? So I don't think that we have to talk about certain topics and have to address them. At the end of the day, this is free. This is a free market. People can do and talk about what they want. If a female dating coach chooses to come out and say that if you're a South Asian male or an Oriental male, it's going to be really hard for you to meet women, there are going to be consequences to that, and they're not all going to be positive. And it will be very easy in this media age for accusations of racism to be leveled at someone who comes out and says that. So I think anyone who does choose to talk about race is making a very bold decision, and they have to do it in a way that's extremely careful, so as not to just self-destruct themselves, right? And in answer to the question, like, is it harder? I think that to a certain level it can be, right? I think that if you're in a place like London, I think it's easier for white and black guys than it is for Asian guys. I'm going to be honest about that. I do think it's easier. But the difference between individuals is greater than the difference between cultures and sexes, for that matter, as well. And so that's the most important thing you've got to remember, right? It's like if you have a sense of humor, a good personality, and you're Asian, it's not going to affect you in the same way. If you figure out your shit in a way that, someone that you would perceive to have a higher natural, status in the sexual market than you, if you have a better sense of humor, you hold a crowd better, you go for it harder, right? You get yourself in good shape, you're going to trump that person. So if the thing that you don't want to do is use your race as a way to justify why life is harder for you, or to use it as a way to justify why you're not doing as well as you should be. And I'm not saying I can relate to the experience. I know that I can't relate to anyone's experience from another background or culture or race. But I do know that any time that I felt like a victim of a situation, I am completely stripping myself of any power or autonomy over that situation. So regardless of what the truth is, even if I'm wrong about it and it's impossible, you're stripping the power, or close to impossible, you're stripping the power from yourself When you focus on this, and you focus on how hard it is, and you focus on why life is more difficult for you, and that's the issue that I see with a lot of the MRA groups, the men's rights activist groups. Some of them are fighting for good causes, but if the place is coming from I'm a victim, then you're fucking up. You're coming from a place of powerlessness, and you can't succeed when you're coming from a place of powerlessness, or at least you won't persuade anyone, because you're going to make it, when you start barking, the other dog barks. If you start talking about how life's unfair for men, then women are going to come back and you're going to have conflict, and we don't need the conflict. We want everyone to be easier about this. We don't need more chaos. We don't need more divides between genders, races. We need to just be focusing on what we can collectively do to make this process easier and smoother. Thanks for all the insights, Sam. I've just spoken with Simon Cowell and he wants his shirt back. Simon Cowell have this shirt. I'm honoured if he does. He's a strong character. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Any questions, you can follow up at the email address admin@fluidsocial. Our hour is up. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to doing episode 5, which will be on either Wednesday or Thursday. So see you then.